Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Data Expert YouTube channel. My name is Connor, and today we are going to be dealing with an advanced Power Query slash Power BI topic, and that is connecting to data sources, specifically query folding. What is query folding? Well, it is the process where Power Query basically pushes the transformations back to the data source. For example, SQL Server, Oracle, SAP, or any other relational database instead of doing the data transformations itself locally in Power BI. So instead of downloading all the data and then filtering, sorting, or aggregating in Power BI, the source itself does the work and only returns the results that you need. Think of it as offloading computation to the database, which is usually going to be more efficient. For example, if you take the sales transactions column here and you do select all from sales transactions, and we see here that we have all of this data, and what have we got? 8,000 rows. Let's say that we only wanted the currency to be euro and Japanese yen, and we only wanted where quantity is greater than 2 units. That there is going to obviously massively reduce the table size. So the amount of data that will be loaded in to Power BI will be, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 rows instead of 8,000. So there's going to be less data, which is going to be much more efficient. Well, from a performance point of view, you're going to have the larger data sets, don't need to be fully imported, obviously, which will reduce memory usage and speed up the refresh times. But then from an efficiency point of view, databases like SQL Server or SAP or any of those relational databases, that is what they are built for. They're built for operations like filtering, grouping, joining, aggregating, all of that. So it's going to be much more efficient. Like everything in life, there is going to be disadvantages. And one of them is that, well, the main one is that not all of the steps are going to fold. So some Power Query steps like custom M functions or certain merges are not going to be foldable. And the problem is that once folding is broken, all subsequent steps will be run locally in Power BI. So you're going back to square one. You're going back to the problem of you're basically running everything in Power BI. There's other issues like debugging. Some people argue that it's harder to debug. I mean, yeah, I think the jury's out on that one. I'm not too convinced with that. I'd say one big disadvantage that I have dealt with in the past is that if you are preparing a report or a file for somebody who is perhaps technically less capable, and they open up the advanced query editor and they see a load of SQL code, they might freak out and think, what is this? I mean, I have no idea. Do something that I can understand. So sometimes you're forced to work at the speed of the lowest member. But assuming that everybody in your team is technically capable, then this should be, you shouldn't run into that problem. Okay, so as an example, I am going to write a SQL query and then I'm going to put it into Power BI and run it. Now, you don't have to write it in a SQL Studio or anything like that. You can write it directly in Power BI. I personally do not like that. and you'll see now why I do not. The first one is, I'll do my server here, and then I will do my database. Oh, sorry, that's not the server. The server is this, and the database is this. You don't actually have to put in the database, but I like to make things as explicit as possible. This is where you write the SQL statement. As you can probably tell, it's not the best. So instead of doing that, what I am going to do is I'm going to jump back into my SQL Server Management Studio. Okay. And the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to run a command here to get all of the columns, which I believe is SP columns, and then I put the table name here. So sales transactions, and I will run this. Okay, here's all the column names for this table, sales transactions. Now, obviously I could, if I wanted to, I could have just done select all, but if you're watching my SQL series, you will see that whilst select star is useful if you just want a quick look. Whenever you're writing production grade code, you do not want that because it's implicit rather than explicit. What happens if a new column comes in and different things. So you always want to mention it. Okay, let's copy this, select, and let's do a trick here for anybody who doesn't know is that instead of going one by one and adding commas, what you can do is shift and how did I do that? I don't know. I just automatically do it now, so I sort of forgot. But yeah, and I'll need to get rid of this. I'll do it again and just see. So in my keyboard it is the shift and F. No, how did I do that? I think I did it. Hmm. It's one of those things now that you have to do it whenever you're not automatically thinking. Then you're like, geez, what did I just do there? The keyboard shortcuts come naturally now. Anyway, so I'm going to select all of these from the sales transactions table. There's some of these columns that I do not want. Well, we'll see in a second. So I don't want the order ID and I don't want the invoice ID. So I am going to comment them out. I think it's not a bad idea to comment them out rather than just removing them completely because it allows us to see that there is other columns there. The posting date is, let me see now. Do you know what I'll do? I'll just get rid of that. Posting date is on a daily basis. I'm not concerned with daily base at all. All I want is the end of month. So I'm going to use the EOM function within SQL. And I'm going to do this and I'll just tidy that up even. Okay, the end of month posting date. And I'll do that as, I'll call it as, let's call it EOM date. Okay. Great. So you'll see here now that it's now the month end for everything, which usually when you're reporting on accounting stuff, a lot of the time that's all that they really care about, unless you're doing sort of like a monthly sales flash where you need a breakdown by month, by day, or by week, or whatever to see how much sales are remaining. Right, so we have the end of month customer ID, product ID, sales org, and you'll see that the customer ID and the product ID are going to be brought in customer and product by this master table here. So, but for now, we'll just skip past that. Distribution channel, quantity, unit price, local, currency, cost USD. Okay, margin USD. I don't want the margin USD because that is calculated wrong. And I'll bring in this. And the currency I want to put above here just to tidy it up a bit. And now that looks better. So we've got the distribution, currency, whatever. Okay. So I will also want to put I want to filter it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that I want what do I want? I want the customer ID to be not to be this. So where customer ID does not equal to this, and I also want the date, the posting month, to be greater than or equal to, let's see, I'll do it the January, February, March, and I'll do it the 15th of March. Now, so we are on 8,000 rows. When I run this, it should reduce down. Yep, we're down to 7180. Great. And what else? I want to do, I want a group by as well. So I'll do group by here, and I will take this in, and that's going to throw a problem, and we'll get rid of these ones here because these are going to be calculations. And what comes up now? Sales transaction. Okay, so we need to do a sum on this, as we'll do a sum on this here also, as, and we'll do a sum on this here as. We'll call it quantity, unit price local, and cost USD. Oh, got a mistake there. Okay, what's going to happen now? So you'll see here that we have got the end of month. Did that actually even reduce anything? I don't know if it did, but we see that we've grouped it here, and this is the data that we want to bring in. And do you know what? Um, I'll throw an extra one in here. I want the sales org to be to not equal 1,000. Okay, great. It's reduced down now to 4,000, let's call it 5,000 rows. So effectively what we have done is we have reduced the amount of data that we're going to be loading into Power BI by 3,000 rows, which if you scale that at a larger scale, you imagine this is production, and instead of the table originally having 8,000 rows, you had 8 million rows, and we've just saved ourselves like 3 million rows, which is not insignificant in when it comes to optimization. And I am going to go in now to the SQL Server database. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and I have a sneaky suspicion that this is going to fail, but we will see why it will fail. And we've clicked OK, and let's see what happens. So this looks good. Okay, that looks good, the preview. And properties, source. So that looks exactly what we want, but you'll notice here that the view native query is grayed out. I can't click on that. So that is that's wrong. Even though I've got the answer that I want the table to show view native query. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to keep this here as it is. Yeah. And then I'm going to say native equals value dot native query, and then I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to first of all refer to source, the previous step, and then I'm going to take my query, which is, where's my query? I'll go back in and get it. And I've got source here, and then I'm going to do double quotes. I'm going to do this, and then I am going to put brackets in there. And instead of doing the in source, I'm going to change that to native. And I'm going to clean that up slightly. Select all. Let's do it from. Let's do a where here. Let's do a group by. That looks okay. And let's try this now and see what happens. Okay, that looks better. Permission is required to run this native database query. Great. Edit permissions. And I'm going to click run. And great, I've got the table here, the output, what I expected. And if I right click on this, I can now see view native query. And happy days, we've got the answer. It is showing what we want to see, our query, and it is foldable. Now, let's, out of curiosity, do this, okay? And let's say that we want to now only include Japanese yen. Okay, we see filtered rows here. The view native query has broken. So I would advise going back into the native query and on the where here, say, let me see, I'll try and I'll actually go into advanced editor, go back and change that and say where the currency. In fact, I actually don't want it as currency. I want it as FX. Let's call it FX. And on the where clause, I want to go and currency equals JP, JPY. Yeah, run permission or edit permission and then run, which can be a wee bit annoying sometimes, but it is what it is. And now we only have Japanese yen, so that has updated. So always, not always, but my advice would be to write the query in SQL Server Management Studio, MySQL, wherever, and then to paste it in, and then to, if you need to make any changes, you can make it in here, but the bulk of the code has been wrote. And out of curiosity, how many rows do we have? Let's do a count on this. Count values. We have 1000 rows. So again, original table was 8000 rows. And if you imagine that's 8 million, now we're down to 1000 rows. That's it for now. I think we have went through that in a lot of detail. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks, guys.